Welcome to my channel, USA Battle Zone. Tonight, we bring you a story of courage, loyalty, and sacrifice, the kind of story that reminds us what it truly means to serve. So sit back, turn up the volume, and let yourself step into the heart of the battlefield. The desert was silent before dawn, that strange, heavy silence that always comes before chaos. Dust drifted through the air like fog, swirling in the wind as the first rays of light broke across the horizon. The convoy had stopped at the edge of a small village, a place that had once been peaceful, now hollowed out by war. Sergeant Daniel Cole stood beside the lead Humvee, scanning the rooftops through his binoculars. He'd been through a dozen operations before, but something about this one didn't sit right. His gut, that sixth sense every soldier learns to trust, whispered that something was coming. Beside him knelt Corporal Avery Lane, the team's combat medic. 24 years old, freckles on her nose, and eyes that didn't flinch even when the world burned around her. She had that rare combination of gentleness and grit, a heart that could comfort the dying, and hands steady enough to stop the bleeding under fire. "Cole," she said, loading her med pack back into her ruck, "your blood pressure's going to spike if you keep squinting like that." He chuckled. "I'll live, Lane. Let's just make sure everyone else does too." They were out there to secure a target. Intel said an insurgent cell had taken control of the village and were stockpiling weapons. Simple mission. Clear, confirm, extract. But in war, nothing is ever simple. The first shot cracked through the morning like thunder. Then another. Then 20 more. Bullets tore through the walls, windows, and dust clouds erupted as the squad dove for cover. The lead Humvee's windshield shattered, spraying glass across the ground. "Contact front! Contact front!" shouted Sergeant Cole, firing bursts from his M4. Lane hit the dirt beside him, pulling her medical pack tight against her chest. Her heart pounded, but her focus locked in. She could already hear the shouts over the comms, "Man down. We've got a man down." Cole signaled for his men to flank left, but as he moved to cover them, a blast rocked the ground. The force threw him backward. Dust, shrapnel, smoke, and then silence. When Lane opened her eyes, everything was spinning. Her ears rang like a siren. The Humvee was burning. Her commander, Cole, was lying motionless beside the wreckage, blood soaking through his vest. "Sergeant," she shouted, crawling through the smoke. The air reeked of diesel and scorched metal. Gunfire echoed in the distance, but all she could see was him, pale, bleeding, fading. She yanked open his vest, pressing her gloved hand against the wound. A deep laceration to the abdomen. Bad, very bad. She grabbed gauze from her kit, pressing it hard. "Stay with me, Cole," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Don't you dare check out on me." He groaned, trying to reach his weapon. "Lane, leave me. Pull back. That's an order." She ignored him. "You're not dying today, sir. Not on my watch." Another burst of gunfire cracked the ground inches from her. She ducked low, pulling Cole's body behind a chunk of concrete. Her own breathing was ragged now, every inhale filled with dust and fear. But she kept working. Needle in, morphine push, tourniquet tight. She needed to move him. If she stayed, they'd both be dead. She took a breath, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and grabbed his shoulders. "All right, big guy," she muttered. "We're going for a little ride." Then she dragged him. Through the dust, through the fire, through bullets cracking like whips over her head. Every muscle screamed, but she kept moving, inch by inch. Cole's boots left a long trail in the dirt behind them. "Lane," someone shouted over the comms. "We're pinned down. You gotta move." "I'm moving," she yelled back. "I've got the Sarge. Cover us." She could hear the rounds pinging off the wreckage, smell the metal and blood. Her arms burned, her knees shredded against the gravel, but she didn't stop. Not once. When she finally reached the side of a crumbling wall, she collapsed beside Cole, gasping for air. He was barely conscious now, eyes flickering. "Why'd you come back?" he mumbled. "Because you'd have done the same for me," she said. The firefight raged on. Her squad was spread thin, half of them pinned, radio chatter breaking up in static. Then came the sound that every soldier dreads, the click of an empty rifle. Lane looked down at Cole's weapon lying beside him. The M4 was still loaded. She hesitated, staring at it. She was a medic, not a shooter. Her job was to save lives, not take them. But right now, saving lives meant fighting back. She took a deep breath, picked up the rifle, and checked the chamber. "All right," she whispered to herself. "Let's finish this." She peeked over the wall. Insurgents were moving in, flanking her position. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked hard, spitting fire. One down. Another. She shifted position, her movements precise, controlled. Cole's voice was weak but proud. "That's it, Lane, keep him off." But the enemy was closing in. Too many, too fast. She toggled the comms. "Eagle team, I need support on the south side. We've got multiple hostiles closing on our position." "Copy that. Hold your ground." She reloaded, took aim again, and kept firing. The roar of gunfire mixed with her heartbeat, the world slowing into that strange clarity that comes when fear burns away and instinct takes over. At one point, she saw a shadow moving through the smoke, close. Too close. She swung the rifle, fired. The body dropped. Then another figure appeared, this one carrying a grenade launcher. "Not today," she hissed, firing again. The blast tore the air apart, but somehow she stayed on her feet. When the reinforcements finally arrived, the battle had raged for what felt like hours. Dust swirled around her boots, her hands trembling from exhaustion. The enemy scattered, retreating into the dunes. She dropped to her knees beside Cole, the adrenaline crashing out of her body all at once. "Medic," someone shouted, but she was already working, stitching, wrapping, stabilizing. Her fingers were slick with blood, her arms streaked with dirt and sweat. By the time the medevac bird came in, the sun was high overhead, turning the sand to gold. She climbed into the chopper beside Cole, holding his hand as the blades roared to life. He was alive, barely, but alive. Back at base, the doctors took over. Lane sat outside the infirmary, her uniform torn and stained, eyes staring blankly at the floor. She didn't even notice when Captain Harris sat beside her. "He's stable," the captain said softly. "You saved his life." Lane exhaled, the weight of it all finally hitting her. "I just did my job." The captain shook his head. "No, Lane, you did more than that. You carried a man through hell and brought him home." She nodded slowly, but her mind replayed every moment. The smoke, the gunfire, the blood on her hands. Some memories, she knew, would never fade. Days later, Cole woke up in the infirmary. The first thing he saw was Lane, sitting by his bed, reading from a tattered field manual. He smiled weakly. "You should have left me, you know." She looked up, eyes glassy. "Yeah, well, next time don't get yourself blown up." He chuckled, wincing at the pain. "You're one hell of a medic, Lane. And you're a terrible patient," she shot back, trying to hide her tears. For a moment, the war felt far away. Just two soldiers, alive when they shouldn't have been. Weeks passed, and word spread through the unit. Everyone knew what she had done. Dragging her commander through enemy fire, grabbing his rifle, holding the line. It became the story whispered around campfires, told in the quiet hours before patrol. Some called her fearless, some called her crazy. She didn't care. She hadn't done it for medals or headlines. She'd done it because that's what family does. You don't leave your own behind. When the commendation ceremony came, the entire battalion stood at attention under the setting sun. The air shimmered with heat, and the flags rippled gently in the wind. Captain Harris stepped forward with a silver star pinned on a velvet cushion. "Corporal Avery Lane," he said, voice steady but heavy with emotion. "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of her own life, beyond the call of duty." Lane stood tall, hands at her sides. The metal glinted in the light, but her eyes stayed fixed on the ground. Cole was there too, still walking with a cane, his uniform freshly pressed. When the captain finished, Cole stepped up beside her. "Attention to orders," he said quietly. "You didn't just save my life out there. You saved the whole damn team." She met his eyes, a faint smile breaking through. "Guess we're even, then." The formation broke, applause echoing across the field. Cameras flashed, but Lane hardly noticed. She was thinking of the village, of the dust and smoke, and the promise she'd made to herself that day, that no one gets left behind. Ever. Months later, she found herself back in the same desert, different mission. The scars had healed, mostly. But the memories lingered like ghosts. Sometimes, at night, she'd sit outside the barracks, looking at the stars. In the distance, she could still hear echoes, gunfire, explosions, the heartbeat of war. But underneath it all, there was something else too, pride. Not the kind that shines, but the kind that hums quietly inside you, knowing you did what was right when it mattered most. She once told a reporter, "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing your job even when you're scared to death." That line made it into every article written about her. But what she didn't say, what she couldn't say, was that fear never really leaves you. You just learn to move through it. A year later, when her deployment ended, Cole met her at the airfield. His limp was better now, though it would never fully fade. He handed her a small box wrapped in olive drab cloth. "What's this?" she asked. He smiled. "Open it." Inside was a silver dog tag, his, cleaned and polished. On the back, he'd engraved a single line, "You carried me when I couldn't carry myself." Lane swallowed hard, fighting the lump in her throat. "You didn't have to." "Yeah, I did," he said. "You reminded me what we fight for." She slipped the tag around her neck. "You gonna be all right without me, Sarge?" He grinned. "You trained us well, Lane. But you ever want to come back, we'll keep a seat open for you." She laughed softly, glancing at the horizon. "Maybe someday." The transport plane roared to life, engines whining. She turned back, saluted, and climbed aboard. As the ground fell away beneath her, she looked out the window one last time, the endless sand, the traces of battle long faded. And in that moment, she understood something simple but true: heroes aren't born in glory. They're made in moments of pure humanity, when one soul refuses to give up on another. The screen fades to black. Then, a voice, steady, proud, emotional, cuts through the silence. That was the story of Corporal Avery Lane, a combat medic who risked everything for her commander, and for her brothers and sisters in arms. If this story moved you, if it reminded you what real courage looks like, hit that like button, drop a comment below, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to USA Battle Zone, where we bring you the real stories of sacrifice, honor, and the warriors who make us proud to call ourselves American. Until next time, stay strong, stay safe, and never forget those who fight for freedom. Fade out. Military drums roll softly in the background. The flag waves in slow motion as the music swells, and the screen fades to black.